quite a privilege to be here. But before I start with what I'm going to share with you this morning, I want to acknowledge a lot of people who help all of this happen. First of all of the leaders who work with the kids. Would you all stand? John, you just walked out the door. Come on back in. Leaders. I got a lot of Riptide leaders here, too, and John's back there. So we couldn't do it without them. And these Riptide leaders are college kids, which are completely awesome that they're here and they're young and they can relate to the kids. And they take their time to come on Sunday evenings from school to be here and help. So thank you guys very, very much. So, you know how sometimes things don't go quite as planned? You know, it's been one of those 24 hours. So yesterday, those beautiful brochures that you have that I've typed up that the kids tell all about themselves, which is awesome. All the senior high are in there, and they tell a little bit about themselves and their trips and what they love about it. And I came to print them yesterday, and I spent 4 hours and not one printed. Nothing. It didn't matter how I formatted. What I did wouldn't work. So at 7 o'clock at night, I called the FedEx Ready Print, and I'm like, okay, so if I bring this, can you print that? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. They couldn't get it to print either. I'm like, this is great. So at 4:30 this morning, I was wide awake, and I came up to church, and I cut and pasted, and I made it work. Now, they're not as clear as they would have been, but they're here. So please take the time to look at those. You know, things work out as they should. And it gave me a lot of time to think. And I ended up kind of redoing part of what I was going to say this morning. So I got an incredible gift this year for Christmas. The amazing thing about working with these youth is you don't know when they're going to come back. You know, as adults, as young adults, maybe when they have their own families, all of a sudden I'll get a note or a phone call or something out of the blue. And it's one of the best parts of doing youth ministry is staying in touch with them and kind of knowing, you know, hearing how they're doing. Well, this year on Christmas Eve, one of our college youth who's come through Riptide and Wave, a lot of you know her, Nikki Townsend, little Nikki, came up on Christmas Eve, and she was like, I have a gift for you. And she was so excited. And I'm like, that's awesome, but you didn't need to do anything. She goes, I know. But I have a gift for you. And I'm like, okay. And she gave me this, that she painted for me. And I love it. Hi, Addison. That's the most beautiful baby in the world. Not that I'm biased. And so she gave me this amazing gift. Now, it looks pretty simple, but it's the thought that went into it. It's what it says, and it's the love that she had when she made this and gave it to me. And so I took it home. It's the perfect colors for my kitchen. And I hung it on the wall in my kitchen. And if you're like me, you go through your kitchen, 30, 40 times a day, right? So I see it all the time. And every time I looked at it, I was like, I have to do something with that. I love it. And I just kept kind of seeing it and thinking, I got to do something. And then one of those mornings a few weeks ago when I was up at 6 o'clock getting my coffee and opening the fridge to get the half and half, and the kids can tell you, I need my coffee in the morning. I'm one of those people who doesn't really believe in God until I've had my coffee first, because you kind of need to see things. And as I was opening the door, the picture's right there on my left, and this voice in my head, which I believe was God, said, I know what you're going to do with that. You're going to use it, and you're going to put it on their shirts. Will you stand up? Move your hair so you can see. Will you stand up, Andrew, just so they can see the back? So I took the words, and I put them over the world, because we travel all over, and Riptide say Nashville, because they're going to Nashville, and Wave, you guys can sit down, thank you, say Hollywood. And I thought, that is what I'm supposed to do with it. We're going to use that. And I think it turned out perfect. It's a gentle reminder of listening to those things as they call us. So as you looked at that, what was the first thing that jumped out at you when you saw that, or you see it on their shirts? Anybody? First thing that jumps out at you when you look at that? How many said be the good? That was the first thing that jumped out at you. Okay. How many of you said believe? There are quite a few that said believe. How many of you saw the whole thing? Believe there's good in the world, the whole thing. Yeah? Anybody see anything different? Okay. One of the kids pointed out to me that really what they saw was the world, except Antarctica wasn't on there. I said, okay, you can add it to all the shirts if you'd like. But that's what we did. We took that, and 2 weeks ago at youth group, I printed some sheets, and on it, for Riptide and Wave, it had the little logo on the back of our shirts that said, be the good, okay? And then I asked them all to fill it out on their own quietly and answer some of the questions. And the questions were, what's the first thing you see in the picture? And why? What did that mean to them when they saw that? Is there good in the world? And if so, how do you know it? How can you be a part of that statement? If you could change one thing today about the world, what would it be and why? And last, describe your thoughts about the world today and the world you would like for your future. Now, these kids have never lived in a time where we weren't at war. That's their norm. War, terrorism. It's a part of their life. Many of us grew up in that era where there were world wars, there was Vietnam. It was a very different kind of war that is going on now. But this is a part of their norm, and you would think that, especially when you listen to the news, there's nothing but horrible things going on in the world, right? The first 20 minutes are all the bad stuff, and then at the end they spend 2 minutes on, oh, there was this one good thing that happened. And yet, overwhelmingly, what these youth wrote down from 6th grade through 12th grade was the good that's going on around them. They focused on the positive, the things that they can change, the things that have impacted them, how there is good on the world. They choose not to focus on the negative. One of the things we do in youth group is talk a lot about their faith and how the world impacts them. And so as we were talking about this and what would you like the world to look like and what can you do, a lot of them said, we can't do anything. What can we do? We're too young. Nobody listens to us. We're the future. And I said to the group, that was in my group, that was, some of them said it, I'm sure they said similar things in the other groups. What did I say, Rebecca? Say it nice and loud.
Jeanne said that we are not the future, we are now.
They're not the future. They're now. They're making a difference right now. If you wait for them to be the future, it's going to be too late. They are out making a difference in the world right now. They're going around the world, literally, every 4 years, going to different places and making an impact on lives. When you look at the brochures, you'll see that for most of the kids who went to Peru a few years ago, that is still the most memorable moment for them on any trip. It is still the one that has had the biggest impact on them because they go and they see things completely different, and yet they find out that people are just people. Everybody wants the same thing. And so now they're making a difference. They are going out day after day at school, at church, at the grocery store, making a difference. They're standing up for people who are being bullied. They've got each other's backs. They're protesting peacefully, and I'm really proud of them for doing it. We had some at the airport in Orlando, and I'm super proud that they did that, but they did it peacefully. They're changing things that they can now. They're going out and they're feeding the homeless. And some of these kids not just now, but ones that we've had in the past as well, are going out and doing work and volunteering for people who have more than they do at home. I have had youth who don't have any food at home, who maybe have one pair of pants and a couple of shirts, who don't have any breakfast or lunch day after day because mom and or dad don't have jobs. And even if they're on the school lunch program, because I know some of you were thinking, oh, well, there's a school lunch program, they might take that food and give it to somebody else who they think needs it more. These are in our community. People look at our youth group, a lot of members in the church ask me over and over many things. Well, why do they need help? Why do they need money? They have plenty of money. They live in Pass-A-Grille. No, they don't. And even if you live in Pass-A-Grille, it doesn't mean you have a lot of money. So, how many of you actually live in St. Pete Beach? Raise your hands high if you actually, no, kids, kids. Yeah, not very many. We have kids that come from Clearwater. We have kids that come from Seminole, from St. Pete Beach, from Tampa, from all over, from St. Petersburg. But just because you live somewhere doesn't mean you have a lot of money. These kids come and help others, but they couldn't do it without your support. Why do we go to Hollywood? We're going to Hollywood this summer, the senior high is. I get that question over and over. Why are you going to Hollywood, California? They don't need help there. You ever been to Hollywood? There's a lot of homeless people. And Hollywood isn't a city. Did you know that? It's actually just a neighborhood of Los Angeles. And it is the poorest neighborhood of Los Angeles. It just happens to be where the stars on the sidewalk and stuff are. But Hollywood has the highest homeless population of teenagers in the United States. Do you know why? People go there to get discovered, right? Only most of them don't get discovered, or they get discovered by the guy who's meeting them at the bus stop and says, oh yeah, I'll help you find a place to live and I'll put you in the movies, but it's not the kind of movies we want them to be in. And before you know it, they're there and they can't go back home and they've gotten hooked up in other things and they're living on the street. The place we stay in Hollywood, we went there 6 years ago, I think, to the same place, is First Presbyterian Church on Hollywood Boulevard, actually. But it's got gates and locks and guards and everybody around it because there are so many homeless people and homeless teenagers there. And they want help. So we go and we sleep on the floor there, and then every morning we get up and we go out on the streets. And we work on Skid Row, and we go to a place that helps inmates who have gotten out of prison, help them change their lives and get back on track and help them get a resume out and do that. We go to the food bank in Los Angeles and help volunteer there and package up food and give it out and help others. And your middle school kids are going to Nashville and doing the same kinds of things. We're going to be helping there with all the flooding and the homes and things that had happened there last year. So the next big question I get is, well, we have people like that in St. Pete. Yeah, we do. We do. So why don't we just go help the people in St. Pete, right? How many of you have thought that? Come on, be honest. I know more than that. Thank you for those who did say that. You know why? Because some of our kids live there. Some of our kids go to school with the kids who live there. A lot of them. And so, how do you go and do that when it's in your very neighborhood? It's hard. It makes you feel different. So we go somewhere else where we can have an impact, where we work and we live together for 10 days with the senior high, 7 with the middle school, and we make a difference in that community instead. That's why we do it. Does that make sense? One of the things that happens the most is you sit here and you see these amazing youth, and they are amazing. I tell you, I love them to death. They're amazing. But they have some pretty incredible stories that if you took the time to talk to them, you would see that life isn't all smiley and happy, you know? Some kids have really tough time at home. There might be some abuse. There might be alcohol. They might be kicked out of their homes. They might not have a place to sleep. Sounds weird, but it's true. Over the years, we've had numbers of children live with us on and off for different amounts of time as they're trying to figure things out. Because of what you do, because of the money that you help give to support these kids on these trips, you change lives. They go to change others' lives, but you change their life. The thing I love most about this church, of any church we've served, is this church makes sure that every child goes on a trip, no matter what. If they can't afford it or not, people make sure it happens. And that is an incredible gift. And what you do is just as important as them going and walking on the streets somewhere, because they couldn't do it without you. You might not be able to physically go there, but you can help them go there. And so that's one of the reasons we changed the auction thing as well, is because I think it's really important that you get to have relationship with these kids, like we do. So that you get to know them. You put a name with a face. You read about them. I had a couple come up already after the first service and asked to meet one of the youth because they read her bio. And they loved what she said. And they said, "What you wrote impacted me. And I want to give you a donation specifically to help you because of what you said." That's powerful. That's really, really powerful. So don't ever think that what they're saying and doing doesn't make a difference. They are now. Jesus was homeless. Did you ever think about that? He was walking around homeless. He was relying on other people to feed him, to give him a place to live. He didn't stay in his own town, did he? He went elsewhere and did ministry. And then he would come back to rest and regroup. And then he would go out again. It's the same thing we're doing. These kids are going and being the hands and feet of Jesus everywhere they go. And it's because of you that allow us to do that. So I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for doing that, for joining and partnering with us in ministry, and for changing lives, because it takes all of us, not just one of us. It takes all of us. So thank you very much for the opportunity to work with these kids. Huh? Yeah. At this time, we will receive our morning offering, and I'm just going to give a little plug for them real quick before they sing. Hannah composed this song, and they are one of the items you could bid on if you'd like to have them come perform for you at your house for a party or for whatever.